My name is Salam, and this is A Paycheck Away. We are joined, or joining us today is Scott Kay, a candidate for the House of Delegates right here in Virginia. And Scott is part of our continuing series called All Eyes on Virginia, we focus on the 27 brave candidates across the Commonwealth who are fighting from the deepest red parts of the state as they put up a resistance against the Republican incumbent. So we are so grateful and thankful to people like Scott for not only running, but also taking time out of their busy campaigns to join us here on our Paycheck Away, where we explore poverty, affordability, and the crisis that working class families are going through in today's day and age. So make sure you spam that heart button so that the algorithm knows that there's a cool thing happening here on the Substack corner. And so people join us. And also in the comments below, share what state you're coming from. It could be a geographical state or a state of perpetual anxiety. And as we hear from you, we also want to make sure you get to ask Scott Kay your questions on his campaign. So make sure you populate that in the comment section. We just want to say thank you, Scott, for joining us and welcome.
My pleasure. Thank you so much for the invitation, Salam. I really appreciate it.
And really just thank you, sir. This is easy work for us. The hard work is what you and your team are doing. Now, Scott, one of the things that I saw is that you have another username called Election Yoda. Tell us a little bit about this life of yours.
Oh, yeah. So that's my X handle. I use it a couple other places. Over 30 years, I was an election official across the country. I worked in 4 different states. Most recently here in Virginia. I retired in 2022, and I was known for my election knowledge and expertise all around. So that seemed like a fitting handle, and everyone seems to get a kick out of it.
Now, when it comes to voting and Yoda, it's really vote or vote not. There is no try. Is that accurate?
Correct. Exactly. Vote or vote not.
Now,
When
one of the great things about Virginia is that we have such a huge window to vote. Is this something you've seen in other states that you've worked in?
Actually, Virginia has the longest window for early voting of anybody in the country. Actually, most states start early voting if they have it about 28 days out, and that's about the earliest that they mail out their vote by mail ballots as well. It's about 4 weeks out from the election, so it's really a little bit unusual and some would say progressive that here in Virginia we tack on 2 extra weeks,
Mhm.
and that 45 days aligns with the federal deadline for mailing overseas and military ballots. So rather than have 2 separate deadlines, everything's pushed up into one, giving the most favorable opportunity to vote to voters in Virginia.
Oh, that sounds very efficient. Wonder, well, did they have a Department of Governmental Efficiency behind that?
I don't think so. I think it was just a data convenience.
Absolutely. And you mentioned military. So in a previous life, you also served our great country in the military.
Absolutely. In fact, the very first time I voted in 1976, I was overseas, and I was one of those special overseas civilian voters at the time. But I did later serve 14 years in the Army as an intelligence officer and interrogator. Saw some combat, got some awards, and transitioned into a public service career in local government, which we briefly talked about as an election official.
Yeah.
That's what I did. So,
Well, veteran, election expert, and now candidate for the House. I can't think of a better, well-rounded candidate. So tell us a little bit about the campaign experience so far. What are some of the highlights?
well, I've been in the election adjacent space for a long time. And before I got into election administration, I actually had been a campaign manager and worked with electeds. So I had a kind of an idea at a high level of what it would look like. But once you're doing it yourself, like most things, the experience changes your perspective. You learn a few things. Uh, One of the things as a public servant was I was used to staying in the background and out of sight. And with a candidate, and when you're a candidate, you can't do that. You have to put yourself out there and talk about yourself. So that was a big adjustment. But one of the most fulfilling things is all the great people I've been able to meet and people that I've been able to interact with. And I've been able to see the hope that they have that we might be able to turn this district blue and get more appropriate representation for them and their values and their issues.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the district.
Well, it's a very diverse district, but not in the typical ways that we talk about diversity. Uh, we have a little crescent in Henrico County, which is very, very suburban and affluent, and leans blue. And then we have a couple of towns. We have the town of Ashland, which is a little blue dot in central Virginia. And then we have the town of Louisa and towns of Louisa and Mineral on the other side of the district. And in between, there's 50 miles of just open space, farms, rural lifestyle, 5-acre lots where there are houses, so it's diverse, both in terms of not just the demographics, but you have the town experience, you have the suburban experience, and you have the country and agricultural experience. So the needs and interests of all those groups are very varied as well. So uh, it's been fun to learn and to relate to each of those groups and to understand what their issues are. But amazingly, there's a convergence. I think all of them want what's best for the country. They all want to have a good, safe life. They want to be able to make a good living. They want to have health care. They want to protect the environment, and they want a future for their kids and for their grandkids.
So that's not affordable right now. That's the big crisis of our time, especially after the federal government passed the big beautiful bill, and the government is shut down right now federally. And this is shutdown is because of the healthcare subsidies that are projected to go up thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars
Right.
across the country. So when you're talking with people, both Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, or rather all three, not both, uh, are is that message hitting? Like, are there people who voted for Trump federally or would typically vote for Republicans? Are they having a wake up call moment right now?
A few of them are, but the wake up call is not as dramatic as what I would have expected. In fact, today I was interacting with folks in the district about social media posts we put up yesterday about the plight of soybean farmers, how the tariffs are really affecting the cost of their inputs. The fertilizer, the fuel, and that, and the tariffs and the trade wars have killed the market. So they're getting squeezed really hard. Uh, and that's a population I would expect to have a little bit of regret about where we're at right now. But it's been kind of interesting to see folks come out of the woodwork and say, "There's no problem here. There's nothing to see. Let's just move on." Um, so uh, to be fair, those folks are not the farmers. So they're the people, the next door neighbors to the farmers. That's their claim for authority, as my neighbor next door says. Uh, but I think more and more, and not just on the agricultural side, but across the board, the consequences of all this dramatic change and chaos that's been happening in Washington, even prior to the shutdown, now especially after the shutdown, those consequences are coming, and people are going to realize those, and they're going to cause real pain. And the unfortunate thing is, as Americans, we kind of wait till it's painful before we respond to things. We don't like anticipate and do things in advance. We say things like, "If it's not broke yet, let's don't fix it."
Mhm.
So we wait till things get broke and then we try to fix it. So the reckoning is coming. The consequences are coming. How soon will people really catch on to that widely? It's anyone's guess.
Yeah, I was talking with some candidates about there's this real sweet spot between November 1 and the election day of when the premiums are actually going live when open enrollment begins on November 1st. That if we start preparing some ads now and messaging, as soon as November 1 hits and people open up, healthcare.gov or the Virginia marketplace, they're going to see in real time what these healthcare costs are going to look like and how it's attributable to Republicans. And so hopefully we do see some conversions happening between November 1 and Election Day as people get out to vote on Election Day.
Right. So you talk about converting people's points of view. The district I'm running in is very, very deep red.
Mhm.
And it, I lost track of my thought right now. So what we need in this district in order to make an impact is we need voters who have traditionally, out of tribal instinct, voted red.
Mhm.
We need them to vote blue, not because they agree with us, not because we've convinced them that a woman's right to choose is the right thing, or that respecting the human dignity of transgender people is a good thing. Uh, but we just need them to vote blue and say, I've had enough. I want something to change. And, if people don't vote differently, we're not going to get different outcomes. The only way to get different outcomes is to get different leaders and to get leaders that are qualified, that are competent, and that sincerely have the best interests of the community in mind.
You think about a great Virginian, Thomas Jefferson. He said a mantra that I live by. If it doesn't pick my pocket or break my leg, then what's it matter to me, right? Of
Right.
course, I'm colloquializing it to our terms today, but if it doesn't pick my pocket or break my leg, then why should I be concerned? So, this whole messaging that Republicans have done phenomenally around abortion and trans rights, it doesn't even affect most people.
Right.
So, it's not picking their pocket, it's not breaking their leg. Why are they up in arms about it? All the while, their grocery prices are out of control directly because of these tariffs, the trade war that Trump is doing and waging on the entire world. Their healthcare costs are up directly because of Republicans. Their wages are down, and wealth inequality is larger than it's ever been. So I just can't. I did canvassing for Jonas, one of the candidates in the House of Delegates, who's also part of the 27 Value Pack.
Mhm.
And if anybody's watching who can link the Value Pack 27, please share it in the comments. The Value Pack 27 is a phenomenal thing that Charles Gaba and Dr. Fergie Jr. Put together to help the 27 candidates who were being neglected by the party to raise money to help their campaigns, because every dollar, especially in these local races, goes a lot further than federal races. So it's been raised over $130,000 so far, and we're in the home stretch where every dollar counts even more.
Right.
So we'll be plugging that throughout the show. Now,
Coming back to your question, why are they doing this? Why are they
yeah.
making these things issues? It's because they don't have anything else.
Mhm.
And when you don't have anything, when you don't have positions, when you don't have principles, you fearmonger and you name call. And we saw that in the debate at the gubernatorial debate. And I see it in all the feedback that I get on my digital media. Those who don't agree, all they do is name call and fearmonger. That's the choice that voters have. Do you want fearmongers or do you want leaders? Uh, and people have to come to grips with that. Yeah, that the tribal voting patterns of rural Virginia um, are going to give them more of the same. And if they're happy with that, cool. But if you expect something different, you have to do something different.
Exactly. That's true. To get something you've never had, you got to do something you've never done.
Right.
That's also a mantra. So tell us about your campaign. What are your policy priorities? What do you hope to do if and when elected?
Well, I have three policy areas that are priorities for me. The first is individual rights and freedoms and personal liberties, which are m- pretty much represented by the three potential constitutional amendments that the legislature gets to vote on in this upcoming legislative session. They get to vote and decide whether or not voters will have the choice to amend the Constitution to affirm a woman's right to choose, to affirm gay marriage, and to restore civil rights to individuals who have paid their debt to society.
Mhm.
So those are three basic individual rights that really are on the ballot this time.
Mhm.
And of those, the one that really energizes me, that connects most to my experience is voting rights. The voting rights of all Americans are under siege right now. And the things that Congress and the president is doing, his executive orders, are really, really eroding the foundations of our democracy and our participatory democracy. And having been an election official for so long and been an election official here in Virginia, I have serious concerns about how robust Virginia's laws are to withstand that assault that's coming on our individual rights. The other two policy areas that I'm committed to,
But
and
oh, no, stop. Pause, but just put a pause there. I'm really grateful that you mentioned those three measures that are on the ballot because we've heard a lot about the statewide candidates. We've heard a little bit about the House of Delegates candidates, but there's barely anything coming around about these three measures. So I'm really, really grateful you mentioned that.
yeah, well, maybe your listeners could benefit from having a little bit of understanding about the process. Here in Virginia, in order to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot, it has to pass in the legislature 2 consecutive sessions. So all three of these proposed amendments passed in the last legislative session. They need to pass in this upcoming legislative session before the voters even get to weigh in. And if there's a Republican majority, they're not going to get that second vote, and we're going to have to reset the clock and start all over again.
So, oh, okay. So it's not that these three are on the ballot. It's that should the Democratic majority happen, then we'll see it on the ballot next year.
Right, because the Democratic majority will vote the second time
I
to put them on the ballot.
So yeah, okay, that's helpful. That's very helpful construct. Thanks. So what's your second priority?
Is affordability and good jobs, and that encompasses a number of subtopics, if you will. We need to raise the minimum wage, and really, a good portion of the affordability issue is income. The more income you have, the more stuff you can afford. And we need to realize if we're going to solve the affordability issue, that we need to focus on the revenue or the income side of the equation, as well as the expenditure or outgoing side. And too often we don't do that. And we need to take the mindset both at the individual level, the family level, community level, and state level, is we need to make the pie bigger and not just cut the pie into more smaller pieces. I think raising the minimum wage is one thing that only affects a small portion of the community, but we also need to get rid of this euphemistic right to work, which is just a free license for employers to prevent workers from organizing and negotiating for benefits that protect their safety, their life, and their livelihoods. And with with a good union environment, wages are going to universally go up uh, as contracts are negotiated, and everyone's going to benefit. It's one of those phenomenon where the tide raises all ships.
That's such a so the phrasing may confuse people. Right to work is just it seems friendly to the worker, but it's not.
It was deliberately framed that way because who's not in favor of your right to work? Of course, and to be honest, the Republicans have done a much better job of putting labels on things than Democrats have, and we end up responding to them. Yeah, who isn't pro life? Everybody's pro
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
right? And actually, if you think about it, who doesn't want to choose? So who's not pro choice? But we lose that labeling battle sometimes,
Right.
and right to work is just a great example of that.
Hmm.
And the and actually Obamacare, which leads to the third sort of set of principles that are part of my platform, is we need affordable and accessible healthcare.
Yeah.
So we keep talking about the affordability part, and that's part of why we have this shutdown right now. But there's also an accessibility component that we don't always talk about that really is important in the rural areas. Um, it doesn't matter how cheap healthcare is if there's no doctor around, if there's no emergency room, if there's no hospital. It doesn't matter how cheap the insurance is. So it has to not just be affordable, it has to be accessible. During the summer, I was working on a project here around the house, and I was building a structure, and a piece of sheet metal slid and slit my wrist pretty severely.
Whoa.
And it was pretty scary. So I had my wife drive me to the hospital. It was 5 miles and 15 minutes to get to the emergency room in Short Pump. I live on the edges of the district
Uh-huh.
here. But I got to think, if I lived in Mineral or if I lived in Louisa that are in the district, where would I have gone? So I did a little bit of research and I looked at mileage and travel times, and it would have taken me over an hour to get from Louisa to Fredericksburg to get 3 stitches in my arm.
Wow.
And the next closest was Spotsy, and then Charlottesville, and then fourth was Richmond. And there's no options. There's not a doc in the box. There's not an urgent care place uh, in Louisa County.
What?
So accessibility we don't talk enough about. We talk about losing accessibility, but we don't talk about increasing accessibility.
Are you hearing any conversation from the people in Louisa County about it, maybe changing from a Republican to Democrat based on this messaging?
There's a lot of people who are unsatisfied. There's a lot of things going on in Louisa County that the data centers and
God.
fulfillment centers and things like that. So there's a lot of people that have enjoyed a rural lifestyle their whole life, thought they always would, that are seeing it being encroached upon by growth, growth that's not well planned, not well managed, that is exploitive in a way. And, and there's this healthcare desert that they live in. And there's also a food desert between Ashland and Louisa, 50 miles. There are no grocery stores. Yeah, there's a couple of little markets here and there, gas stations, convenience stores, but it's a food desert. And here we are. We're in the shadow of Richmond. We're in the shadow of one of the largest urban areas in Virginia, and we're a little bit oblivious to uh, the challenges. And it's not just Louisa and Western Henrico. It's Goochland. It's it's all around us, and we don't we don't always take the time to see it.
Yeah. I saw that Charles Gaba is joining us as well. If Charles is still here, thank you, Charles, for
Yeah,
creating
thank
the
you, Charles.
and co-creating the Value Pack 27. I'm not able to paste the link in here, but if you have your phone or your computer nearby, you can check out Google and just Google Value Pack 27 Virginia, and the link will be one of the first ones. Please donate to these 27 candidates. Any amount helps. You could do $1 for each one, $10 altogether, and it'll get split equally amongst them, or you can even adjust it as you want, customize it as you want. You can give to everybody except Scott, or you can give to only to Scott, whatever you want to do. But every single dollar helps. In fact, it's because of the Value Pack 27 project that candidates have been able to put up billboards. They've been able to send out more mailers. They've been able to canvass even more doors. So every single dollar is an investment into turning that needle bluer. And it's so important that we not only do that for this election, but it's because all eyes across the country, maybe even the world, are on Virginia. Nobody really cares about New Jersey. It's all about Virginia because Virginia is that bellwether state. Should we get not just a flip across the statewide seats, uh, should we not flip, some of the battleground seats, but should we really reduce that R plus number? I mean, people are gonna be just dancing in the streets because of all the competitive authoritarianism that we're seeing sweep across the country thanks to Trump and the Republicans. So it's absolutely critical that every single dollar is going to help not just Virginia, but the entire national mood. So please make sure you look up the Value Pack 27 and you donate whatever you can. $1 per candidate is such a big help as well.
Yeah.
So if anybody can link that in the comments, that'd be great. Otherwise, please Google that.
Yeah. So if I could just jump in for a second there, Salaam,
Mm.
I think the 27 of us have already made a difference, because if we hadn't jumped in, there would have been 27 Republicans that would have waltzed right into their office.
Mm.
And you can't win elections if you're not on the ballot. And 27 of us were bold enough to put our names on ballots in quixotic effort to move the needle a little bit.
Mhm.
And I can't help but think that because of the support that we've got, uh, that one or two of us are probably going to make a difference.
Yeah.
We're gonna flip it, and I think the chances this year are better because of the statewide candidates that we have. They looked to be having some coattails that we can latch on to. But I know these other candidates, they're all hardworking, they're all earnest, and they're all exceptionally qualified, and in most cases, even more qualified than the Republican incumbents that they're running against. Uh, so I'll pitch my own fundraising here for just a second.
Yeah.
All the funds I'm raising now are going directly into our digital marketing campaign, our advertising. There's a link on our website where you can donate directly, knowing that your dollars are going to go to reach out to those voters in a rural area that really can't knock their doors because they're too far apart. And there's too many posted private property. If you walk up here, I'll shoot you kind of signs. Uh, but scottk4va.com is the website. So I have to get my own plug in here. So I
Absolutely.
hope you don't
Now,
mind.
Scott K, is that the number 4 or FOR?
Yes, Scott K, the number 4, va.com.
Love
Scott K4va.com.
I love it. That's great. Joining us today is Scott K. 4VA. He's running for the House of Delegates in Virginia in a red part of town. And that's why we call these 27 candidates the Brave 27. Because months ago, when they made the decision to run, America was a very different place. But in the weeks since Charlie Kirk's murder, uh, things have gotten a lot more scary. So we really salute people like Scott K, who are continuing to fight in the front lines and just putting everything out on the line for democracy. So, Scott, thank you so much for taking time out of your evening, out of your campaign to join us
Pleasure.
on a paycheck away. And we hope to see you again after the election with some good news.
Hope so.
All right. Thanks, y'all. And thanks for joining us here. We'll see you next time on a paycheck away.
Bye bye.